Okay, so obviously, if we are just 2 weeks from Purim, so we will learn some halachot of Purim, and perhaps with the question about when we're flying here and there's an elephant in the room, Iran. Will they have an attack? Will we have an attack before Purim? After Purim? What will happen? Will they attack us? Won't attack us? Well, so we have a lot of questions. So first, around Purim, that's when they lived in Purim. Purim is a holiday of, think about it, for quite a long time, the Jewish nation was in a question. They lived in a doubt. What will happen? The story of the Megilah happened around Pesach. Happens around Pesach. And only a year afterwards, I mean, they fight against the enemies. Okay, so for a whole year, almost they're preparing and things are happening, and they know already after the whole story of Mordechai and Haman being hanged on a tree. So they know that the story probably will have a happy end, but they aren't so certain about it. So really, the time of Purim is a time of how do we get strength to live in a time of doubt? How do we do it? What will happen? Think of the Jewish people living then in Shushan. They see the biggest Shushan, which is in Iran. Yeah, in Iran. Even still today, the Iranians have a place where the grave of, they say the grave of Mordechai and Esther is, and they treat it as a holy place. So it's quite interesting about they treat it as a holy place. And the question is, okay, how did they get the strength? How did they strengthen themselves? And Haman, the Jews in the times of the Megillah. Haman, when he comes to Achashverosh, the king, he says, Yeshno am echad mefuzar umeforad bein ha'amim. There's a nation scattered around the kingdom, and they are divided. Okay? They are not united. Mefuzar umeforad bein ha'amim. So one thing he mentions, they are not united. Another thing he mentions, the religion is different. Vedateihem shonot mikol am. And the religion they have is different. And probably those two things that a man mentions as he thinks it's the weakness of the Jews, they then turned it into the strength of the Jews, and they created resilience after the decree of Haman. So they all gathered together. As Esther says, Lech kenos et kol haYehudim, go and gather all of the Jews. So they gather everyone together. And what will you do the 3 days that you're gathering all of the Jews? Fast and daven. Fast and daven. So they strengthen themselves also in being united as a nation and also as a religion. And those two things are the sources that we can get resilience in a time of doubt. What do we do? So we meet with each other, sit here for shir. I almost broke beer. I said maybe the beer will leave for next week. Actually, next week I'm not sure I'll be here. So I should have bought it this week. But I said, why? Because it's gathering together. It's Purim. You have to practice, right? But there's something of being together. And that's why we have Mishloach Manot Lere'eu, Matanot Le'evonim. It's supporting each other. And we have also the Megilah, which in the Megilah shows the story of Hashem appearing in nature.
And the Purim Suda.
And the Purim Suda, of course, and the Purim Suda, which Mishloach Manot and Matanot Le'evonim are tied to the Purim Suda. So we'll start learning a bit of the halachot of Purim. We won't touch all of the halachot. We'll start a bit from the fast, Ta'anit Ester of Purim, and then we'll get to reading the Megillah. Reading the Megillah and a bit of the fast. The fast of Purim, you can say it's a strange fast. Okay, it's a different fast than most of the other fasts we have. Why is that? We have Tisha B'Av. What's the purpose of Tisha B'Av? Morning. The temple was destroyed. It's the morning. What's the purpose of Yud Zayin Tammuz? Same. What's the purpose of Asara B'Tevet? More or less the same, right? It's the siege started around Jerusalem, and that in the end caused the first temple to be destroyed. So we're fasting for that. What's the purpose of Tzom Gedalia?
Still thinking about
the destruction, right? So there's 4 fasts about mourning about something around the temple being destroyed and the nation being scattered around, and we lost our temple and the connection to a holy place. What's the fast of Ta'anit Ester?
Well, the eradication of all Jews was in play,
So you're talking about
praying that it doesn't happen.
it's a praying, but we know the story already. We know it didn't happen.
We know that about what happened to Tisha B'Av, and
So you're saying it's like it's a fast. Historically,
yeah.
historically, Purim is between the two temples. So if it's a fast, so you won't get to the destruction of the temple or the
People.
all the people, okay, because the temple is destroyed. Okay, so that's, but it's a fast. It's not a fast of crying on the past. It's a fast more of praying for the future. Right? It's a fast more praying for the future. The Mishnah Berurah brings here the reason for the fast is that in those days, I'm not sure where he brings the source because it's interesting. He brings it from Shaul, the war of Shaul with the Plishtim. But when they had the war, so they used to fast and daven to Hashem. I'm not sure if also the soldiers used to fast. That's a question if you learn the book of Shmuel. But people used to fast to daven for Hashem. So it's not a fast so much of mourning on the past, as we said, it's a fast of praying. It has even something positive about the fast. It leads to Purim, right? The Ta'it Ester leads to Purim because of the fast. Because it will remember all of the Jews gathering together, which is something amazing. Think of all of the Jews gathering together. That's just in a city. Lech Knesset Kol Yehudim. Think of there's always the joke about the Jew in the island. And after 20 years, they save him, and he has two shuls, right? Why two shuls? Why daven? Why don't go to him? So on the times of Esther, all the Jews gathered for 3 days together. So it really united the whole Jewish nation. So there's something positive about the fast. So that's just when we get to the fast. We should know there's something positive about it. People who, and this is an easier fast compared to the other fasts of the morning, for sure compared to Tisha B'Av, obviously compared to Yom Kippur, it's easier, but it's also easier compared to Asar B'Tevet, Tzom Gedalia, and Yitzayin Betamuz. So people who are pregnant women, or people who are tired, or not tired, I'll say are sick, okay? Or if they have a lot of pain, they do not need to fast on that day, but they should be together with all the nation, and they shouldn't go out and eat a steak on that day. Okay, so if someone needs to eat, and he's not feeling well, he can eat something basic, but not go and eat. That's not the day for the ice cream. Okay, leave the ice cream for Purim. Okay, for Purim. Okay, so that's really a bit about the fast, and now we're going to Kriyat Megilah. Okay, we'll be learning now. The main topic for today is Kriyat Megilah, reading the Megilah in the Shulchan Aruch. It's from Taf Reish Pei Zayin 687 and on. And also here I want to read all of the halachot, just some of them. There's something very interesting about reading the Megillah. Maybe I'll say two interesting things. One, that we see already in the Megillah, there's 2 dates for Purim. Purim has 2 dates, which is interesting. What day is Pesach? Tetvav Nisan, right? What day is Sukkot? Tetvav Nisan. Okay, what date is Chanukah? Kafei Kislev, right? The 25th of Kislev. What's the date of Purim? Well, it depends where you live, right? It depends where you live. So something interesting about Purim that it depends where you live. Okay, that's a whole topic for itself. And we see that sometimes the Gemara in the beginning, the Mishnah and the Gemara in the beginning of Tractate Megillah says that you can read the Megillah already a few days before Purim. Okay, Megillah נקראת ב-11, ב-12, ב-13, ב-14. You can read the Megillah already a few days before Purim. And you're Yotze the mitzvah. Okay, you're Yotze the mitzvah. Some opinions say if you need, you can read the Megillah already from the whole month of Purim. Okay, so usually we try to read the Megillah on the date itself, because reading it beforehand is only to the big reason, and according to some poskim, only if there's a minyan you can read the Megillah earlier. Otherwise, you cannot read the Megillah earlier, at least not with a bracha. But it can actually apply, I guess not to us, but it can actually apply to soldiers. If there's a soldier, he knows he's going now on a mission. And he's going now for 24 hours. He'll be hiding under a bush in the Lebanonian border. So a soldier like that, he can read the Megillah beforehand. I remember as a chaplain in the army, so we used to get quite a few Megillot, and send them with soldiers going to missions. Sometimes the soldiers were able to read it on the date. When I was in the Navy, so always all the boats, all the ships had
cloth.
they got cloth. Yeah, we gave them cloth, and they kept it, and they read the Megillah in the ships. So that's if you're in a ship, but sometimes, especially if you're a ground soldier, and I remember once getting a question from a soldier. I'm under a bush. How do I put on tefillin? I'll be here for 24 hours. How do I put on tefillin? So I said to him, look, if you manage to call me, obviously you can also put on tefillin, right? But now reading the Megillah, which is long as 20 minutes, if you read it fast, more or less, I'm not sure a person like that can read the Megillah, right? If he's hiding somewhere, he's pretending to be a bush in somewhere in the Lebanon border. So he can read the Megillah beforehand, so before the unit goes up to wherever they go to, so they can read the Megillah. Once there was a question of someone flying overseas and to a place without any Jewish community. So what do we do? What do they do with the Megillah? So again, sometimes we can read the Megillah beforehand, but it's very interesting that Purim has a set date on one hand, on the other hand, it's a bit flexible. Okay, if you light Hanukkah candles and say, Hanukkah candles, I'll be out of town. Can I light Hanukkah candles now? Okay, not now, a week before Hanukkah. You can't light Hanukkah candles before Hanukkah. It's not Hanukkah, right? But for Purim, for some reason, we have something which is very flexible about it. What?
I never heard that.
So that's so we don't do it usually, but sometimes we have it, and it could be that Purim was flexible. First, we know from the story of the Megillah that there's the difference between the people in Shushan and people out of Shushan. So Purim was flexible, and maybe I thought to myself, the story of Purim is also a story that we have a story of Purim today. And maybe in smaller versions, we had the story of Purim 100 years ago, and 200 years ago, and in Spain, and in Europe, and in Yemen. So the story of Purim as a big event, as a singular event, happened on Purim in Shushan. But we also everywhere we are, all out of history, we have similar stories. So that's more of a I'm not sure if it's halachic reason, but it's more of a personal reason. So that's why Purim is flexible, because also we somehow have the story of Purim happening to us. So Chazal gave a bit of flexibility in Purim. But the real reason is, as I mentioned, even on the times of the Megillah, Purim was not on a set date. Things happened beforehand, things happened a day after. That's
So when you say that the Jews all gathered together,
only in Shushan.
only the Jews of Shushan gathered together.
לך כנוס את כל היהודים הנמצאים בשושן. Go and gather all of the Jews that are in Shushan. And the reason they couldn't gather everyone else, because they didn't have WhatsApp then. And that's the proof from the Bible we have that there wasn't any WhatsApp during the time of Purim. Okay, so that's a proof. Okay, Megillah, we read the Megillah at nighttime and repeat the Megillah during the day. Okay, all the nighttime is the time for reading the Megillah of the night. All of the daytime is time for reading the Megillah of the day. I remember once in the army, 20 minutes before Shkia, one of the soldiers tells me, I didn't read the Megillah. And that's, I think, the fastest Megillah reading I ever did. But anyway, so we can read the Megillah from the morning and until sunset for the day, and then from Shkia, from Tzedek Kochavim, until morning during the night. Okay. Megilah is learning Torah, right? And one can say I stop learning Torah in order to learn to read the Megillah. That's obvious, because both of them are like learning Torah. But it's more than that. One should stop learning Torah, even for some of the words in the Megillah that we don't understand. The sons of the Ramachim, what is that exactly? We don't understand. And even if there's a big group of people who are learning Torah, together, and now they see the look at their watch and say, "Wow, now there's a big minyan in shul. They should stop learning Torah as a big group and go to the shul and read the Megillah together." And here we come to an interesting halacha that we have of berov am hadrat melech. It's like the beauty of the king when there's many people reading the Megillah together. So preferably, one shouldn't read the Megillah in a small house minyan. You should go to shul where there's everyone comes together and they gather and they read the Megillah, and that's what we should do. If one has a shul where he always goes to, so now doesn't need to go. And let's say one goes to a small shul. He has a small minyan, a small shul, and he has a debate on Purim. Should I go to my regular shul, or should I go now to the big shul in the center of town and everyone's there, there's hundreds of people there, and should I read the Megillah there? So the Mishnah Berurah says, if one person has his regular shul, he can continue to go to the regular shul. But besides that, there is something very important about coming and reading the Megillah together, berov am, with many, many people. And I thought that's why is it so much important about Purim of berov am. We have also other things, berov am, where there's a debate in Masechet Brachot about zimun, right? After we eat and we bench. What happens if we have only 3 people doing a zimun? So we say, Rabotai nevarech. And if we have 10, we say, nevarech Elokeinu she'achalnu mishelo. And there's an opinion in the Mishnah that the more people you have, the longer of a sentence you say. But in the end, we hold from 10 and up, we say the same thing. Nevarech Elokeinu, Elokeinu. Doesn't matter if you have 10 people, 10,000 people, you always say Nevarech Elokeinu. On Purim, we say, try to have as many people as possible reading the Megillah. And why is that? Why on Purim do you want so many people? So now,
they got together on Purim.
So I think part of the essence of Purim, the essence of Purim is not just reading the Megillah, it's coming out from my individual place. And we have it with Mishloach Manot. We have it in Matanot Le'Evanim, giving to the poor. We have it to Seuda. Seuda, usually a meal, a person, usually when he eats, so he eats with other people together, right? There's we say that the way to a man's heart is from his stomach, right? So when we eat together, so we start talking, and we can become friendship becomes many times through meals. Someone who works at the Knesset from MK told me the most important decisions are made in the cafeteria. That's where the most important decisions are made. Before all the meetings you have, in the end, where are things closed? In the cafeteria. That's where you sit down, calm, a bit more cheerful. You're not in a position of arguing. That's where many of the things happen. So there's something about meal gathering, but there's also something about davening. We said, Lech Knesset Kol Yehudim. Esther tells Mordechai, go and gather all of the Jews and daven. Daven and pray for Hashem. So obviously, when we are now celebrating being the Purim and being saved, so also that should be as something of a reminder of Lech Knesset Kol Yehudim. Go and gather all of the Jews.
You're working against what Haman said, right. So
yeah,
in order to counteract that, you put
right. As we mentioned that Haman said, and we are now gathering together. So therefore, also the Kriyat Megilah, there's something very special about Berov Am Hadrat Melech. And we said, even if there's a shir, and they're now learning Torah, and they're now 50 people learning Torah, but the minyan has 200 people, and they're waiting for them now. They should stop the shir, join the Kriyat Megilah, and then continue the regular shir. Okay, so that's when the Shulchan Aruch says we stop Talmud Torah for reading the Megillah. It's not just to read the Megillah; it's also to read the Megillah in a big minyan, okay, for a big group of people. So that's about Mevakim Talmud Torah. That brings us to a question which it's becoming more popular. But if you look at many poskim, and so for this minhag about women doing minyanim of themselves, of reading the Megillah. And that has something nice in it. Okay, it has something nice. If the woman reading the Megillah, because it connects the woman more to the Megillah, and many times there's less noise. And also it shows a connection that women have to Purim. There's a big connection to women on Purim, obviously, right? Esther being a main part of Purim. So there is something very nice about it. But it does bring two halachic questions, or two halachic things you should think about. One is usually those minyanim. They're smaller than a shul. And if a woman is able, she should go to the shul with the main minyan, if she can hear well, and kids don't bring babies to shul, that may, or kids don't throw out those, how do you call those, things that explode, things that make it like firecrackers. And you can hear things in shul, so you should go to a shul from the main minyan and hear the Megilah in the main minyan. Men, women, doesn't matter. All of them should come to the same minyan with a big group. If you can't hear the Megilah, if there's babies, if a woman has a baby and she can't come together with everyone else, obviously she should go to more of a private reading, a smaller reading. But otherwise, the same as we say, Berov Am Hadrat Melech for men, and we should be together. The same applies also for women, and we should be also together, for men and women, creating together a big community. That's one issue with women reading the Megillah. Another issue we have is we know that women are obligated in reading the Megillah. Okay, women are obligated in reading the Megillah. I want to read the Shulchan Aruch. I closed it by mistake, so one moment. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Hakol chayavim b'kriyata. Everyone is obligated in reading the Megillah. Anashim, v'nashim, everyone is obligated. Okay, and also you bring children to learn, to be educated in reading the Megillah. One of the important parts of reading the Megillah is not everyone of us reads the Megillah. So how are we Yotze? We need to read the Megillah. We listen to the Megilah, and we have a halacha of Shomea Keoneh. If I listen and pay attention to reading the Megilah, we should pay attention for all of the Megilah. So it's as if I read it myself. Okay, but, and here we have something interesting. It's not just a matter of hearing the words. We need to hear the words from a person who is obligated in the Megilah. So if I hear a word, there's a child, he's a 10-year-old child, he has a sweet voice, he knows the tropes, the ta'amim, the tune, great, he's really a star. But he's not obligated in the Megillah, he's 10 years old, right? So I wasn't Yotze in the Megillah. The same, and that, I hope it won't apply this year, but on COVID, people asked, what do we do with COVID? Can we hear the Megillah on Zoom? Okay, and the answer is, you can hear the Megilah on Zoom. It will be very nice to hear the Megilah on Zoom, and maybe you'll have Persum Nisa. So technically, you can hear the Megilah on Zoom. Are you Yotze? Are you fulfilling the mitzvah, hearing the Megilah on Zoom? And the answer is no, because you need to hear the Megilah from a person who is obligated. And even if someone is transmitting his voice on Zoom, in the end, you aren't hearing the voice of a person, you're hearing a digital copy of the voice of a person. So we need to hear a person himself. We have, let's say, only 2 minutes, so we won't expand about it, but part of Shomea Keoneh is hearing the Megilah from someone who is obligated, and hearing also his voice. So it's not just a matter of me listening, it's also of the other side. There's two parts for Shomea Keoneh. Someone who's listening as if he is saying.
And Chazal can't use a microphone.
Chazal shouldn't use a microphone for reading the Megilah. Should not use a microphone for reading the Megilah. The Shulchan Aruch brings a question. Are women obligated in Megilah the same level as men? And obviously they're obligated in Purim. But there is an opinion that a woman isn't obligated in reading the Megilah. A woman is obligated in hearing the Megilah. Okay, a woman is obligated in hearing the Megilah. Maybe it also shows the place of Esther. Esther, one of the powerful things she did was she listened. She heard what happened to Mordechai, and she tried to listen. Mordechai tells her what happened with Bigtan Vateresh, we're planning to kill the king. So there's also an aspect of listening, not just talking. Both paths are needed in any communication. So there is an opinion that women are obligated in listening to the Megillah, not reading the Megillah. And therefore some poskim say that a woman shouldn't go to a minyan of women because maybe there's no obligation in reading, and therefore there's no one who's this person who's reading the Megillah isn't obligated in reading, and therefore the people hearing the Megillah from a woman and not hearing the Megilah from someone who is obligated in the Megilah. But that really brings here a debate. As I said, the main thing is to try and be in a big minyan, and if there is noise, so obviously men and women can go and daven in a small minyan, which is also fine. And before we go to our faith, so just hope and pray that we have a Purim Sameach, and hopefully we'll be able to learn also next week
They say
without
something about
no one
the
bothering us.
They say something about the grogger, not to